This Cactus Plant Still Life series is a great way to learn how to use acrylic paint and a mixed media approach. The focus of this tutorial is how to draw a composition using cactus plants, and then how to do basic wet-on-wet acrylic painting techniques. This is just a basic sketch. Everything you drew in pencil could be covered up or changed with paint, so don't get stressed out about the details and leave room to add extra, because we'll be doing a lot of painting and mixed media collaging. The background is going to be a gradient of a base color mixed with white. I'm using orange, so I am mixing red and yellow together. You can see by my fail that I put way too much red, so I'm using a red-orange since I ran out of room. I am adding a little bit of yellow, but that red is so dominant that it's just going to be really red. I still think it's a nice color, so I'm good to go. To create a nice gradient from dark to light, I'm going to start with my base color on the bottom line where I drew my tabletop, and I'm going to paint up, filling that bottom space with my darkest, which is going to be just the base color itself. You want to move pretty quickly because the trick is mixing white into your base color before it dries. And acrylic paint dries surprisingly fast. So I'm picking up my pace, making sure to cover a large area thickly with just paint, no water, and then you're going to clean your brush to start adding that white. I'm using really thin, kind of cheap paper for this painting. So every time I wash my brush between colors, it's really important that my brush is dry. You want to use almost no water at all, just paint, so that your paper doesn't wrinkle up more than it already is going to. With your clean, dry brush, dip in white and overlap into your base color, pulling that color up. It might look a little streaky at first, so practice getting your brush strokes. And you don't have to clean your brush every single time, but if you start seeing your base color kind of take over your white, you want to make sure that you clean it when it starts to change it. Keep going, and it's okay if your texture's not perfectly smooth. Don't forget those small spaces between your plants. So make sure when you're mixing up that you also include those areas so you can get the right gradient in the right spot. For the very top, I'm just dipping my brush in white and then relying on the extra paint that's kind of just stuck in my bristles. The top of your painting is going to be the lightest area, almost like there's like a light source from behind the plants coming through a window. And just blend with your white, kind of blend down into it, and try to make your brush strokes smooth, but keep in mind it could be fun to have a little bit more texture. Boom, all done. Now it's time to learn how to paint the cactus. As we remember from elementary school, blue and yellow make green. We're going to mix a green using these two colors right in our palette, and just carefully take your brush and stir the two colors together, making sure to mix it all the way. I'm starting with my large cactus plant first, and I'm just taking a big brush full of that green and carefully painting the overall shape. You want to think about the stripes of the cactus and how the way you use your brush can look like it has a more plant-like texture. And you do want to make sure that you overlap a couple times to make sure that your paper isn't showing and your paint is fully covering your surface. Our next color is white, so it's really important that my brush is clean, and I'm twirling it on the edge to make sure it's dry, and then I'm wiping it carefully on a paper towel to make sure all the water is absorbed. Take a small amount of white paint, and you're gonna paint nice kind of wavy lines to mimic the shape and texture of the cactus. I'm not cleaning my brush every single time I dip it in the white, but if you look at my white on my palette, there's not a whole bunch of green in there. So just watch your brush and make sure that if it starts to get too messy that you do clean your brush. I think though, because your green's gonna be a little bit more dry, it's safe to just carefully dip the tip of your paintbrush into your white paint. I'm gonna repeat the exact same technique with my smaller cactus plant that's in front. Because these plants are the exact same color, I am going to overlap more in front to make sure it looks darker. You want to have them not look like they're connected or the same plant. I will show you a little bit later how to create a shadow on the back, the first cactus plant that we painted, so creating a little bit of depth. Make sure to clean your brush again, dip it in the white, and create those same interesting lines. Just like with your background, this technique relies working wet on wet. So that means the green is still not dry as you're applying that layer of white paint. That's going to create a nice light green and really make sure that it doesn't look like just a white line, but it's a part of your plant. I do want this plant to be slightly different, so I'm going back with green so I can darken up the areas in between the white. Next, we'll use a different green, black, and white to create a range of values on long aloe vera plants.